Hello everyone, it's Shel C from PaperOcotilloStudio, and today I'm sharing with you another artist trading card for June 2020. This is making artist trading cards every day in June. So this one is for day 21, and it started out as a piece of embossed paper that I glued to a heavier background. So the paper, the things that you can see now on the paper were very raised, and it was just white, so you couldn't see it. So I took an archival ink pad and I just dragged it upside down over that paper, and it brings out the raised areas and leaves the sunken in areas of the embossed paper sunken in. So then I'm going back in with some Neocolor 2 water-soluble crayons and a water brush and just coloring in the grain. This is a wood grain patterned paper that's pressure embossed at the manufacturer. I didn't make it in a little folder or anything. It came this way. There was also an orange piece. Someone sent them to me. I think it was Debbie, but I'm not sure. I get happy mail, then I sort it out into all the categories that it goes to, and then I can't remember who sent it to me anymore. But it might have been Debbie. So I'm using different colors of browns and tans and golds to color in the wood grain, just make this background more interesting. And I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I thought maybe something to do with Father's Day, since Father's Day is today, the 21st, in the United States. But it didn't end up being very masculine, although it does have a lot of brown in it, so I guess it could be a masculine one if you really wanted to stretch it. Because brown's kind of, a guy color. They don't like the bright colors. They like brown and blue and, more natural colors. So for all those dads out there, happy Father's Day. So then I came back later, and I have this little piece cut out from a catalog. So these are all little figurines, I believe, because you would never see this many owls together. Owls are solitary creatures, so they wouldn't all be hanging out together. But for my ATC, I'm taking the artistic license and I'm putting them all together. So I'm cutting them out from this, from the background very carefully, making sure that I get the white bits off and I get it all cut out as perfect as I can. I'm starting to realize that I don't think I see up close very well. Like maybe I need to go and get some stronger something in my glasses. Because when I see these things after I've photographed them and blown them up larger, they're not nearly as neat as I think they are when I'm looking at them in person. It's kind of strange. So this paper is some type of packing paper, I think. I'm not sure. But it's very textured. And what we were doing on the live stream last Thursday was making textured artist trading cards, or dimensional, or something that's not completely flat was the concept. So when I made this embossed paper background, it was for that. So I picked up this textury paper to use as my branches because, those owls, they don't just float. They're not full of helium floating, so they need something to stand on or something to rest on. So I'm making them some branches. What I don't like about the paper is that it's too much the same color as the background, and it's not really standing out from the background very much at all. And so I end up having to kind of fix that a little bit. But I like the fact that it was textury and it looked like a wood bark, rough and bumpy. So in order to darken it up a little bit, here was my idea. I thought, okay, I'm going to use some watercolor in there because it's going to be super absorbent. This paper seems like it should be super absorbent, and it will just suck up that paper, that watercolor paint into the paper real fast, and then it'll just darken everything. Strangely, that is not what happened. The paper was not absorbent. Must have some kind of fiber in it that doesn't allow it to absorb very well. So the effect wasn't. I thought that the watercolor was just going to wick right into it, and it was going to go into all those grooves, and it was going to, you know, like a sponge, and then all the paper would easily be colored a darker color, and I could see that it was branches, but no, it didn't really work that way. So I just painted it on, and it did highlight the fact that it's a rough paper because the watercolor paint didn't really go down into the grooves of the paper. So that was fine too. And so now my cluster of owls, maybe that's a wisdom of owls. I'm not sure. Doesn't that seem, how there's groups of things, like you've got a pod of whales and you've got a murder of crows and you've got all those different funny names for groups of animals. I think if you had a bunch of owls together, which you really wouldn't because they're solitary, they could be a wisdom of owls because of the whole idea that owls are wise. So yeah, I'm just making that up, people. I'm just winging it at this point. Haha, get it? Winging it. They're owls. They have wings. Yeah. It's a lot of ATCs, people. A lot. All in 1 month. So I found a little scrap of green painty paper and I cut it into some little leaf shapes because if you're going to have branches, I think you should have leaves on them. I mean, it could be winter. I guess there could be snow on them, but I went with leaves. So I just cut kind of little like diamond shapes, sort of, that are rounded on the sides. I have this little tool. It's a pickup tool, and it works pretty nicely for picking up all these little tiny leaves. This stuff is all so very, very, very tiny. I'm looking forward to July where I can work on something larger. These little tiny 3.5 by 2.5 inch cards, which is the size of an artist trading card, which is also the size of a baseball card, a playing card, a Yu-Gi-Oh card, a Pokemon card, all those cards. All this size, with the idea that artists could go to conventions and trade them. People ask me, what do I do with them? I give them away to people who donate to my channel. I have a PayPal donation button, and sometimes people will donate to my channel, and then if they leave if their PayPal account or whatever that they use has their address, then I can send them something. Surprisingly, a lot of them don't have their addresses though. So for those of you who've donated, I just thank you in my vlog at the beginning of the month. And I am really slow to get those mailings done too, so sorry about that. But that's what I use them for if I do a happy mailbox or a thank you note to somebody who's helped me out. I put in the ATCs or the altar tags. Altar tags work really well in a business size envelope. So anyway, I've got my owls glued down now. I'm still adding some leaves just here and there to make it seem more natural. So all the owls are clustered together on some branches out there in the wilderness somewhere, which you'll never see. If you do see an owl, you're not going to see them together. Probably. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I did see an owl probably last month or maybe 6 weeks ago. I was over at my mother's home in her backyard sorting out some boxes, and I was out there for a while. I had a table, and I was got boxes, and I was sorting things, and there was this little tiny owl. He's probably only maybe 8 inches tall, and he was in the grapefruit tree, and he was sitting there for a long time, and I finally noticed him. He was just peeking out, looking at me, and I don't know. I think he was probably some type of a desert owl, obviously, but he liked the grapefruit tree and the shiny green leaves. I think it was cool, and um, he or she felt safe in there. So that was pretty fun. Of all these owls on the card, that little owl probably looked mostly like the one on the right on the top. That's kind of what he looked like. He had some round things around his eyes, and but he was very small. I've also seen large owls. It hasn't been for quite a few years, but there used to be a big shady tree in the neighbor's yard that shaded part of my yard against the fence, and on the post, every once in a while, this big owl would come, like be there very, very early in the morning. If you went out there, might be sitting there, but that tree has been removed, and it's been gone for a long time. So that's been a long time ago. So all I'm doing now is just integrating my all my stuff that I've glued onto the card into the background by using some pens in different brown colors, a dark brown and a medium brown. These are the Faber-Castell artist pens, which are India ink permanent pens, but I can blend them slightly. This is not a sealed surface, but I can blend them a little bit with my water brush if I hurry. And I think that makes everything look a lot more integrated into the background rather than just being stuck on. I did want to seal all of this because there's the magazine ink and there's watercolor from the Neocolor 2s and just a lot of different stuff. So I decided I would give it also. Oh, then the other reason I did that is because I wanted to put a more matte surface over the shiny magazine paper. The magazines are shiny, and I don't like shiny, glossy things very much. So I wanted to do that. Then, you know it, somebody wanted to add lines around everything. And so I have this little teeny tiny micron pen that has the tiniest little nib on it. And I just decide I'm gonna illustrate all the owls. They were probably fine just the way they were, but I felt that I had to. And because I did this, that's the reason that I named this episode "The Crazy Eyed Owl," because some of them, their eyes got pretty crazy when I added stuff to them. And I think it's because I just don't see as well as I think that I do. It's too tiny. It's too tiny. But I went around all the owls. I drew in some of their feathers. I drew around their eyes. I drew around their bodies. And so it makes it look more like an illustration than a magazine cutout, which I guess is okay. I just should probably do it with a magnifying glass or else get some better glasses. I guess this does look kind of masculine. That's cool. Father's Day. That's cool. So I also wanted to add some highlights to their eyes, some catch lights, to make their eyes stand out. And I wanted to do that with white with my Posca pen, but the Posca pen's tip is too fat. And so I first tried to do it with a brush, a little teeny tiny brush, and I dispensed some of the ink from my Posca pen onto my underpaper, and I picked it up with a tiny little brush and I touched it. That didn't work that well. It was still too big, and so I got a ball stylus and I dipped the tiniest ball stylus that I have into the white ink and tried to apply it that way. I also applied a little bit of gold ink to some of them with a fine tip gold pen. And I don't know, their eyes turned out kind of crazy. If you guys are enjoying the ATCs every day that I've been making and all the videos I've been making, please remember to give me a thumbs up. And you can leave a comment or a question or an emoji or whatever you want in the comments section below. And that helps my channel by you giving the go ahead to say that you like this content. Hey, YouTube, I like this content. and then they can recommend it to someone else who might have similar interests to you. Since they track all of us, they track everything that we click on. So they know what you like, and if they might find someone else who likes the same thing as you, and they might recommend my channel. That's how my channel grows, because there's millions and millions and millions and millions of contents out there, just all kinds of stuff, and so it's hard to find a little channel or a medium-sized channel because you just don't, it doesn't get recommended to you. So that's the reason that I ask for you to do these few little things for me. Also, you can share this on Pinterest or something like that, and that helps too, because it brings people back over to YouTube to click on my content. So that's always good. YouTube likes it when you bring someone back onto their app, so that they can watch more YouTube, which that makes YouTube happy. Then they are happy with me, because that anyway, it's a long thing. So I'm also drawing some details on the leaves, because I thought once I drew all the details on the owls, then the leaves looked kind of plain, and so I drew some details, some veining and things on the leaves as well. And now I'm looking for something to put on there, some words. I picked "Never Give Up." I think that is a good sentiment for our times, and you know, we just need to never give up no matter what. Keep fighting. Personal little note to myself. I did trim these down and cut them apart, and then I used some Yoo-Hoo glue stick to stick them down, because I didn't trust them to stay on there once they're so tiny. You know, if something gets caught on the card, they can peel up. So I wanted to get everything really stuck down. Also, when I put the matte medium over the whole thing, that helped stick down my leaves better, because I had just been using tacky glue that might not have covered the entire back of the leaf. So that helped. All kinds of fussy stuff on this one. I think tomorrow I'm going to go back to something really loose and free, and maybe some collage or something very painterly, or some mark making or something, because these last two cards were a lot fussy. Actually, the last probably 5 cards were pretty fussy. So time to do something a little bit different. I try to do, throughout the month, I try to do different stuff. So I'm going to move on to something different for day 22 when I get around to it. So I'm putting my backing on the card. This is something that I print off on my computer, and it has all my social media contacts, so that when I send this to someone, they will know who made it. If they store it, then later they can come back, they will know who made it. They can find me on all the places that I am. That's it for me. Thanks. Bye-bye.